The information provided on this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. Reliance on any information provided here is solely at your own risk. Welcome to the Birth Baby Podcast. Each week, you'll find guidance, encouragement, and practical tools to support you through pregnancy, birth, and the postpartum journey. I'm your host, Sierra Morgan, a certified birth and postpartum doula, hypnobirthing educator, and pediatric sleep consultant. I'm also the owner of a doula agency in Austin, Texas, and the founder of the Birth Baby Academy, where I offer classes for both parents and birth professionals. Thanks for being here. Hello, everyone. Today I have Jess Tims with me. She is a certified fertility doula, Reiki Master, and founder of Her Fertility Support. She even has her own podcast called Her Fertility Podcast, so go check that out. And she serves as a peer advisor with Resolve, advocating for inclusive, accessible, and holistic fertility support for all individuals. She is amazing. She has such a passion for this. She reached out to me wanting to talk about something that isn't often talked about, and it is secondary for infertility. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me and for being open to this topic because it is so under discussed and there's a lot of people who can't get pregnant after they have babies. So I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah. So can you just start off by just super basic telling us what secondary infertility actually is and how common it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So secondary infertility is the term we use when somebody can't get pregnant after they've already had a successful pregnancy and delivery. So whether or not you went through infertility with your first or second child, maybe you had a really easy pregnancy, you got pregnant quickly, it's when you're adding to your family and then you're experiencing infertility. We call that secondary infertility. And it could be for baby number 2, 3, 4. It doesn't really matter. We just use that term as an umbrella. And it is impacting about 10 to 15% of the population. So likely somebody you know is experiencing secondary infertility. But when people already have children, we often don't think that they will have a problem getting pregnant again. So it's something that we don't talk about a lot.
Yeah. And we hear people say, like, don't ask somebody when they're going to start having kids. Like, cut that out. Stop doing that. And it's also like, don't ask when they're having their next one. They could have already been trying. Like, I personally have a giant age gap between my kids. So they're 7.5 years apart. But that was by design. I joked that we had a missing piece to our puzzle, a daddy, and we needed another daddy before we could have another baby, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, that wasn't like a stressful topic of when do I want to have more kids, because I already knew that once I got married again, I would want more children. But oftentimes when people are asked this question, especially as their other child gets older, they're like, they might already be dealing with internally that they're really upset that they've been trying to get pregnant. I have friends like this that have been trying to get pregnant with their second baby and they just stinking can't. And especially when they didn't have fertility issues the first time, I find when that is the most jarring because they really did not even close to expect that they would have this issue. So do you know what some of the known or perceived causes of secondary infertility are?
Yeah. So it's one of those things that falls into two buckets. So either there's something in the body that's going on, right? We have a hormonal imbalance. There's something with the cycle or the sperm that we can test medically in the body that's going on. And there's a variety of reasons for that, both in males and females. I always say fertility is your vitality because it really is impacted by kind of your whole self. Of course, we have like toxins impacting our fertility and our hormones, but also sperm, what you're eating, how you're sleeping, like all of that, because fertility is a secondary system. It's not a system that you need to survive. It's like a bonus. So when your body's in survival for a variety of reasons, the body then gets impacted. Now, that's like bucket one, right? Like you could go to your doctor and find out like, oh, my hormones never, came back online after my first pregnancy and I need to do some work there. Or maybe his sperm just isn't, the markers that we want to see. And so he needs to do some work there. The other bucket is the energy bucket. And this is kind of my specialty and what I focus on a lot with my secondary infertility clients, because as parents, as we know, it takes a lot of energy. We are now responsible for little humans, and the body is really intuitive. And if there's not enough, like I say energy, but really just not enough available to create new life from, because you're giving it out all day as a mom or a dad, then the body intuitively knows, like, I cannot do this again right now. Like, please pause. It's all connected to the nervous system, to the subconscious mind, and we can kind of dive into that if you want to, but it's really another view I like to view with secondary infertility, because we are giving out a lot of ourselves as parents, and the body might just not be up to speed at that point. Like, okay, yeah, let's make another baby when this is already taking so much. So those are kind of the two main buckets of causes. Of course, there's nuances in both, but that's really what we see when we look at secondary infertility.
I find that it's so hard for parents when they feel like it is that energy piece, because they're like, it's my fault. I'm too stressed. Yeah, totally. And then that even more, right, creates that stress that we're trying to not have. But people do all the things to try, and I talk about this with childbirth education. I'm like, the more things you do to try to go into labor, the less like you are to go into labor. So cut it out.
Exactly.
But that's so hard to say when it's fertility, right? I mean, I'm going to tell a silly little story about me for a hot second. With my first child, I'm 23, trying to get pregnant. I'm married. I know I want a baby. It's like 4 or 5 months and I haven't gotten pregnant. And of course, something is wrong with me, right? But how could I not get pregnant after such a short time? But I'm 23. And we had military insurance, and I went to an appointment because I had like access to all the specialists. It cost me nothing. And when I was there, she did first of all, I walked in the room and I had a Monster energy drink in my hand. And she goes, that's the first thing that needs to go. And I was like, what? I mean, I was clueless. And she's like, the thing in your hand. And I was like, oh, I love these. And she's like, yeah, no more. And then I laid down and she did the little thing to see if I'm ovulating. She's like, you are so healthy. You are ovulating right now. Like, go home, seduce your husband, and get pregnant. And I like needed that confirmation, because I was taking my temperature every morning. My ex-husband joked, like, this child can never say that she was not wanted because you are trying so hard to have her. But I was so obsessed with being a mom. I was so obsessed with getting pregnant that I was stressing myself out. And us type A people too, it's like, sure, tell us to calm down. Like, that's the most thing that'll get us riled up, you know?
Yeah.
And I hate that so much, because I relate to it so much that you feel like it's your fault. You feel like you're doing something wrong. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Nerva? You said if you want to talk about it. You're the expert. I want to talk about it. Whatever you want to tell us, we want to hear it.
I'm so glad you brought this up. So this is really where, like, Her Fertility Support and all the work that I do really lives. I have a master's in communication, and what it really comes down to is how we talk about this, and being told, like, just relax, or stop stressing, or for moms, like, we'll do less as a mom so that your body feels safe enough to conceive again. Like, none of that language is helpful. It's missing the mark completely. And it's really minimizing the experience of, like, I so badly want to add to my family or want a baby, and I can't. Like, it's just not happening. But you telling me to just, like, go, like, on vacation isn't going to help, right? And so when we start to understand it from what's actually happening in the body, I think it's a lot more empowering for women, and you can find the thing that works for you, because that's the other part. It's like everybody works differently and what they need is different. So, for your example, so beautiful, because we all know the energy drink was the thing causing your system to be dysregulated. Like, that would be the word that we would use, right? Like, you're on a high, you have a ton of caffeine in your system, which is like just liquid energy in the body. And your system's responding to that with higher cortisol, which is a hormone, which plays with our other hormones, right? Like, it's this whole cascade. So when, like, talking specifically about secondary infertility, when you are a mom and you wake up, you are responsible for these beautiful little humans, and they have a lot of needs from you, and you are meeting those needs, and you're loving it, and you want it more, right? Like, you want more little babies. Well, the body and the nervous system is like, wait, but in meeting those needs, like, is this taxing? And so I like to think about, then you can have the language around like feminine energy or the sacral center. Like, it's all the same thing. At the core, we are energy bodies. It's why when a heart stops working, we like shock it back into life. Like, we have an energy system. It's what traditional Chinese medicine taps into, and acupuncture and all that. So in the body, energetically speaking, it's like a vase. Like, I like to think of it as like a vase, like just below in your pelvis is like a vase, and you're
like
giving
that.
out. Yeah, you're giving out from that all day, like to your children, to your partner, to the people you work with. And then you're asking your body, okay, now use this to create more life. And your body's like, it's empty. So you have to find a way to fill that back up. And this is where the conversation around like self-care or me time, it feels good because it does that on some level. But again, as moms, we can't just go like sit on a mountain in silence and meditate all day. So what it really becomes is more of a strategy. And if you're dealing with anything really hormonally, this will work too. But a strategy to intentionally bring your system, your nervous system, out of its fight and flight and into its rest and digest, almost like a hack. Like, you're almost hacking that system. So this is going to be different for everybody. For me, what it is at the end of the day, I take a shower, but then I take a bath. I do both. And in that bath, it's like, it's all the things. It's Epsom salts and essential oils and all the things. And I just set the intention that like any of the energy that's not mine is releasing, and I'm getting all of my energy back. And it's my little like 5-minute moment to let my system reset before I sleep. So then it also helps my sleep. And I'll be honest here, like, even doing that for myself every day is hard because in the bath, I think about all the things I'm not doing. I can like hear my son. I can, and I'm like, well, but I know that it's helping reset my system. So, and there's like a bunch of ways to support your nervous system. So whether it's walking in nature, doing a bath, different ways to activate your vagus nerve, the breath work, whatever it is that feels good for you, if you can start to incorporate that and remind your system that it is safe and it's okay to conceive again, that's like the first step.
Yeah. I think too, people that are going through this secondary infertility, and not everyone, but sometimes they're like, why am I having a hard time getting pregnant when so-and-so has all these babies and she seems stressed all the time, but her body was able to have back-to-back babies, Yeah. And it's just that everyone's system reacts differently to the stimulus around it. Like, I'm having a baby, I'm a birth doula, and I'm having my 4th baby with a family in June. And I've only been doing this for 7 years. So 7 years and 4 babies, and she's not even 30 yet, right?
Yeah.
And she's running around after all these little sweet little minions. And, life isn't just so easy for them. They've had issues with finances, like jobs turning over, and family issues, illnesses. And her body still, like clockwork, just pumps out these babies. And then there are other people who like have these lives where their husband works and they don't even have to work, and they're able to stay home and they can go to the spa once a month. But they might have a hard time. And you're like, but I thought I was doing all the things. And it's just that each of our bodies and makeup is different and reacts differently to our environment. Would you say that's true?
100% true. And comparison will take you down so fast on this journey.
I know. My husband said that to my son the other day. He was complaining that something his sister had was a little bit bigger than what he had. And my husband said, Bud, have you ever heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy? And then started chatting about that, and gosh, wouldn't us as adults benefit from thinking about that a little more often?
Yeah. And when it comes to fertility, we have to like take even a bigger step back than just like me versus her, because it's so, there's so much more to the fertility conversation. So yes, somebody who's stressed can absolutely like pop out babies. And I'm, on more of like a spiritual level, I'm really a believer in like, we're all learning different lessons in our lives. And so you don't we can't know what her soul is here to learn and what all those little babies are here to learn with her. And so this comes more of a conversation
that just gave
around
me chills because this woman really is just pretty special. You can see that, like even people around her can see how that's what she was made to do. She needed those souls to do that. And not that this other person didn't, but sometimes it's just so outwardly visible.
It's just so different. And I think this is really where my own experience with infertility taught me this lesson. Like I'm type A, like most high achieving women that I work with, it's like, you put your mind to it and you get what you want, right? Like you can find a way to make the thing happen. Well, when it comes to fertility, it's not only about you. You're in a triangle where it's you and a partner and this little soul that's coming in.
The great equalizer.
Totally. Yes. Yes. And so sometimes that little soul has criteria or like something that they're waiting for or some other thing that you're not aware of. And so it becomes this lesson of like surrender and trust, which was what I really needed to learn about through my own experience. And knowing my son now, I totally see it. I'm like, oh, yes, you needed to wait, like you had your own things that you wanted in this life. And so, it's like, if you're in that framework of like me versus her, I really encourage you to like kind of take a step back and see it more about how can I trust in this process? What can I do? Right. There's often a feeling of like lack of agency. Like this thing is happening to me. So like find the things that you can do to support yourself. And then the rest becomes about trust and surrender and really supporting yourself in the process.
Welcome to parenthood, right? Trust
Totally.
and surrender. That applies everywhere. Birth applies. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that it's not just you, it's you and a partner and this little soul of this little baby. So speaking of these partners, do you see that they often experience infertility differently? And if so, how so?
Yeah. So if we're talking about like a male partner, right? If we're talking about like a male and female couple, which is the traditional conversation here, with all people, we all experience things differently. I find that in men, one, there's usually a social denial around the fact that he might be the reason why they're not getting pregnant. We put so much on females and women, and yet it accounts for 50% of the equation. In people who have infertility, 50% of the time it's male infertility.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that statistic has gone up. So it used to be 40%, which was still pretty high. And now it's 50%.
And I've even seen an unwillingness to get tested to see if it's their fault.
Totally.
I hate the word their fault, but like their piece of the puzzle that has a little bit of a need of help.
Which arguably is like a very enjoyable way to test your sperm. Like I'm just like, why is there this hesitancy? And there's even companies where you can do it at home and send your sample. Like you don't even have to go to the clinic. Like it's very easy to test your sperm. And yes, there is a hesitancy. And I think there's a big fear around, well, what if it is me? Because there's not a conversation around male fertility and like, what do I do to support? So if someone's listening to this, like definitely get his sperm tested because sperm is generated about every 3 months. It's a little less than 3 months. So the sperm he's working with today was really started about 3 months ago. So sperm is being generated pretty quickly and it can be impacted a lot by environmental stuff and stress. So there's good and bad news there. Like one, it could be impacted by things, but also there's an opportunity to improve sperm fairly quickly.
Right. And then we're sitting here with eggs we were born with forever ago.
Totally. Right. We just born with them.
Stark contrast from male to female fertility.
Yeah. Right. And we don't equip men with the knowledge around, well, what do you do if you need to improve your sperm? So the good news is you can, right? There's a lot of things you can do to improve sperm. It's a very painless test. Just go get it tested.
Pleasurable test.
Yes. Arguably pleasurable. Yeah. And we have even better tools now to test sperm where we can even do what they call a DNA fragmentation. So before we could test, and you will get tested, like your sperm count, the motility or how it's moving, and the morphology or what the shape is. Because the egg is the strongest cell in the female body. It is a strong cell that sperm needs to penetrate. So we need really great sperm to do that. And now we can also do a DNA fragmentation where we can like splice and dice and see what is the makeup, meaning is it good quality sperm? Where we didn't have that technology like 3 years ago, we have it now.
Wow, it's that new.
Yeah, it's new. We can't do that with eggs because eggs are a single cell. So we would destroy it if we tried to test it, but we can do that with sperm. So it's, even if your numbers are good, you might consider doing a DNA fragmentation to see what the makeup is. So you can get a lot of data, which I find can be really helpful.
That's really cool. This is why I love doing this podcast, because not only do listeners get to learn something, but I learn something every time. So what are some supportive steps if someone finds that they are having maybe secondary infertility? And when would you recommend that they act? Like, how long of quote unquote trying until you would say, all right, taking some of these supportive next steps could be a good idea?
Yeah. The great news is all of these steps support your pregnancy as well. So it's all things that are going to support your body, getting pregnant, staying pregnant, and delivering a baby. So I love that about fertility. It is a thing that benefits you regardless of what happens next. And medically speaking, infertility is defined for somebody under the age of 35 after trying for 12 months, which is a long time. If you're over the age of 35, that window becomes 6 months. So that's kind of a medical parameter. But in my book, if you feel that there's something going on, like your inner guidance is like, I just want to know more, then start asking. You can do some basic testing with your practitioner around your fertility without having the diagnosis of infertility, meaning you waited 12 months. And that might help point you in the right direction. So things like getting tested would be, and what I mean by that is getting the sperm analysis, but then also getting a hormone panel for the female partner to know where the hormones are at. Hormone panels are just a blood test. Typically, they're taken around the start of your cycle, or like 3 days into your cycle. So when your period starts, because that's when your hormones are at their lowest point. So you want to be working with your practitioner and like understand when to do the hormone test and all of that so that you get some data. Then what you can do on your own is really 2 buckets. One, nourish your body. And as moms and arguably dads, this is something that is one of the first things to go, where we're more concerned about what the little ones are eating and not what we're putting in our body and eating.
We just put in the things that they left over on the plate, right?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that what we're
That's what we do.
Yeah. Right. I've been doing that since I was a nanny. I remember as a nanny, I was like, they didn't finish the goldfish. I guess I'm finishing the goldfish.
Yeah. And I'm so guilty of it. Like, this is not a shame game at all. I make
this is we see you because it's us too.
It is me too for everyone else. And then come, the middle of the week, I'm like, I didn't even grocery shop for myself. Like, what am I supposed to eat?
Who's the person that takes care of me?
Yes, right. Where is my assistant? Like, I need her to make my things, or him. So nourishing her body. And, there's a lot of noise online around, or social media around like what that is, but it is again, case to case for your body. What feels good in your body? Basic parameters for fertility is you want to eat before caffeine. Caffeine is wonderful, but it does play with your hormones. So caffeine is going to spike your cortisol, which is a hormone. So if that's the first thing you're doing in the morning, it's going to, I like to say, like mess with the orchestra, which is all of your beautiful hormones. So have something nourishing before you have caffeine. Helps support your hormones. Your hormones also need building blocks, right? Like they need things to work with. The only diet research proven to support fertility is the Mediterranean diet. And I think it's a good source of inspo. So if you're like, well, what do I eat? look at the Mediterranean diet and draw from there because, all the deep leafy grains, the lean proteins, the good fats, all of that's in there, and that will support your fertility. Yeah. And then we look at the other side. So that's kind of what you're putting in, and then how are you eliminating? And that looks like your digestive system. Are you moving your body? And are you getting good sleep? Then that's where you would start. And all of those are areas as parents that it gets tricky, right? Like the day-to-day gets in the way. And so if you can find, the litmus test of what is the thing? Am I waking up tired? Then let's start with your sleep. Am I not knowing, like me today, what am I going to eat? Then that's where I need to start. So finding the thing that you can do and really commit to really support your fertility is where I would say start.
And I love that you said hey, yeah, technically the parameters are 12 months under 35 and 6 months over 35. But you're right. If you are just feeling like you need to do more sooner, 3 months or whatever, 4 months as a 23-year-old first-time mom. But I really think that our anxieties just continue to snowball. And some of us have reasons that they need to get pregnant in a certain time frame, like a husband deploying, something like that, military families, whatever, somebody in your family with a terminal illness, whatever it is. So we can't judge that somebody has a timeline that they're wanting to work from. But when that happens and we're oh, well, we're not in the parameters yet, and we just sit and wait, if we did find out at 3 months instead of 12 months that we had a deficiency of a mineral in our body or our hormones were super out of whack, and there were these few little things that were just supportive, that we could be pregnant at that year mark instead of just now starting the journey of trying to figure out what's quote unquote wrong or out of alignment at a year. So, listen to that inner voice, because it doesn't matter what the people around you think. It doesn't matter, if you feel silly or whatever, and you don't have to share it with other people if you don't want to.
Yeah. And I think that becomes I'm glad you said that, because it becomes a bigger part of the secondary infertility journey of you don't need to share it with people. And how do I navigate, if people are asking me, when are you going to have more babies, or are you going to have more kids? And that becomes really tricky. It also can be really hard when your child is asking you, when am I going to have a sibling? And so that it's really a decision. You might need to test it out a little bit, but between you and your partner, having the conversation around how are we talking about this with people? Are we saying, yes, we're trying? Or are we saying, we're enjoying our family right now, and if it happens, that's great? Or are we saying,
no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And it's at least you have alignment with your partner so that you are on the same page. And then socially, that becomes easier to navigate rather than you're both saying different things. And then, your mother-in-law's asking and all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so helpful. I'm so glad you came on to share about this, because you're right. It's not talked about enough. People don't realize it sometimes until they even experience it themselves. And they're like, what is this? I had no idea I could have issues next time. I thought I was good to go, So can you share, and of course I'll add this in the show notes as well, but can you share how people could get more information from you if they wanted to, social media, website, whatever you got?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm at herfertility.support. On social media, the website is www.herfertility.support. I have a free fertility support circle that we lead once a month. It meets online on Zoom, no matter where you're at.
Awesome.
We have this free masterclass that really dives into the nervous system and the subconscious mind. So if you're in that experience and you're why is this such a struggle? That masterclass is for you. We're going to go into the science and give you tools on how to support yourself through that. And that's herfertility.support/free. So you can find all that there. And something that popped into my mind, Sarah, as you were saying that last part, was this idea that we do all know someone. And so how do we be a friend when, you might have a friend who's having secondary infertility. So I just want to touch on that real quick.
Yeah, that's great.
And, it does become that don't ask, don't ask or assume that it's easy for people to get pregnant again, because it isn't always. And I think one of the The harder niches is if you have pregnancy loss after you already have a baby. And so if you are a friend and you have a friend who like shares that with you, like, well, yes, we're trying, but we've, had a couple miscarriages or whatever it is, being that person that holds space for them can be a game changer, especially when you already have little ones and you are trying to now navigate infertility or pregnancy loss while also being a mom. Having a friend to step in and say like, hey, like, let's have a play date. Having a friend to step in like, hey, we're going to be doing these things. Do you want to come with us? It can help keep your family running, like the little ones busy while you're trying to navigate what you're going through, while you're trying to go to your doctor's appointments, while you're trying to do, whatever it is. So if you're in the friend zone with someone, offer to support them in a way that feels good. And maybe that looks like a play date or even, just grabbing tea or coffee and like hearing what they're going through. Because oftentimes they're carrying this energetic weight by themselves and they don't know who they can talk to about it.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. That is very, very important. Yeah. This has been so helpful. Thank you so much. And I look forward to learning more from you in the future.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to follow, rate, and review the podcast. It helps us reach more families who can benefit from this resource. For more resources, classes, and services, head to empoweredbeginningsatx.com or check out the Birth Baby Academy at birthbabyacademy.com. Until next time, wishing you confidence and calm on your journey through birth and beyond.